Okay, I think we are live now. Hello, everyone that's joining us, and welcome to our guest. Tonight, we are speaking with Kathryn Clausen, who is the Communications Director for the Ohio Association of Community Action Agencies. So that's about all I'm going to do as far as taking time to introduce her. I'm going to hand it over to her to maybe share with us a little bit more about her background and how she got to the position she's in now. Go ahead, Kathryn.
All right. Well, Stacy, as I met you through the Kent State University, so I just recently graduated with my master's degree in mass communications and journalism with a concentration in public relations. So that is definitely a mouthful. I actually started the journey from a master's degree after I started in this position. My previous degrees are from Franklin University in communications. And prior to that, I went to and graduated from Ohio University with concentration. Hello in the background.
Man.
That's all right. We're forgiven. My degree from Ohio University is in marketing and photography, actually. So quite a little journey there where I've been in the Community Action Network for a little over a decade now. So when I started at the association about 3 years ago, it was just a natural progression to really share all of the great things that our network's doing. So I'm really excited to be where I'm at.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that. Can you share with us maybe a story that sort of illustrates the excitement and the challenges that you face as a public relations professional?
Oh, those two go hand in hand, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So, PR professionals love to tell stories, and we're going to tell stories to whoever will listen and whenever we have the opportunity to do so. And when we do, we really try and tell it truthfully and effectively as possible. So being part of an organization whose mission is to help low-income families in poverty, it's really tricky to find the balance between telling the struggles of everything that comes along with poverty, whether that's generational or situational, and also protecting the customer's privacy. Sometimes it's those little messy details that come along with it that really help us advocate for their needs and help us fight for policies that are going to help them in the short and long term. Recently, we had a reporter that contacted us to discuss the 20th anniversary of welfare reform. So she wanted to speak with our executive director and then asked us if we could connect her with some of our customers to discuss their unique situations. It was really exciting to get that opportunity. When a reporter contacts you directly, it's wonderful to be able to share those stories whenever you can, like I said. But it's a challenge to find somebody who's willing to share those really intimate details. So when someone's struggling, it's different to walk down the street. It's when those details are private, it's even more difficult to do the same after your story's been published on the front page of the paper. So poverty, especially, is a topic that's very political, and we each have our own opinions, and they're usually very strong opinions. So what we need to do is find the balance between sharing those real stories and sharing the truth, and ensuring that our customers don't feel like they're being exploited. So, it's when we're helping them overcome different challenges, it's important that they trust us to be a strong partner on that journey. So, it's exciting and it's all of this stuff, but we walk a fine line to make sure that we don't violate the customer's trust.
That is a fine line, but gosh, some of those stories can be so powerful, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so next question. I wanted to ask if you could tell us how you would describe what public relations is today.
Well, PR really, I believe, is just as it sounds. It's about building the relationship with your public. So for our organization, that includes our members. We have 48 agencies across the state of Ohio with about 6,500 staff throughout there. Community members in all of the areas that they serve, elected officials, partner organizations, funders, state and regulatory offices. I mean, our our publics are really very wide ranging. So, and part of that too is being sure that we're building our own profession's overall reputation. Public relations, I think we get to really play the Jiminy Cricket on the shoulder of CEOs and directors and boards, and really the entire organization, from everyone. And we get to do that, keeping the public's perception in mind. So us advocating for what is ethical and what is best for our audience is really, really what public relations is to me.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great analogy. I love that. I'm totally going to figure out some way to insert Jiminy Cricket into some slides or something. That's really great. We've talked a little bit in this class about the ethical responsibilities of public relations professionals. So I think that really summarizes it quite well and visualizes it too. So speaking of public relations in your industry, so working in the nonprofit world, what can you share with us that you think might be specifically different or unique about that, the nonprofit world versus, say, corporate communications?
Well, I think all nonprofits are run like a business, but with very key differences. We're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of accomplishing a mission to better society. So that is the important piece there. We're not, we have our stakeholders, but we're not trying to increase the bottom line for our shareholders. In nonprofits, it's important to know that you don't just wear one hat. You chip in and you do everything that you can to increase the visibility of your organization and make a greater social impact.
That is a key difference. I know when I worked for nonprofits, even I learned early on not to use the word business objectives, because we weren't in business. We weren't selling something, and I had to learn how to use the correct language. So that was key.
Absolutely.
I wanted to go back to, so you were talking about some of the different publics that you work with. We're talking about the public relations process and specifically about planning. So do you have different programs that you're focusing on different target publics? Do you have multiple campaigns going at once? How do you plan and how do you organize all of those communications?
Oh, that's a loaded question. There's so many different things that we're juggling and in the air at the same time. And so planning is an extremely important thing to do. But, when I write something or when our executive director's out there talking, we really try and keep in the back of our head that what we're saying here is going to all of these audiences at once. So, we have our internal membership that we really focus on with the capacity building and training and all of that. So, but the message is really the same. What we're doing in community action, and it's not just in the state of Ohio, we also connect, with our national network. It's important to make sure that message is consistent across the board. When it comes to planning, we have different, plans written out and SMART goals developed to make sure that we're measuring everything correctly. But it's just such a loaded question. It's difficult to keep track of, that's for sure.
Do you guys have like massive yearly planning meetings? I'm imagining like everybody getting together and there's like days of planning.
Well, we have a very small staff at the association. With, like I said, 6,500 professionals. We have 8 in our office. Mm-hmm. So we have our executive director, fiscal director, development director, and we all have different roles. Usually what we do is, we have our different goals at the end of the year of things that we want to accomplish the following year. And then we'll review those and make sure, decide, did we meet those goals? Do we need to increase or adjust them otherwise? But with a small staff, it's difficult to really take the time that's needed. So, we have our strategic plans too that we review every year, and we update it every 5 years. So, we do have all of the staff that come together for those strategic pieces.
I imagine it's a lot of balancing long-term goals with short-term, and also then hopefully not a lot of crisis management, but those fires that pop up on like a daily basis.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We don't have too many of those, but there is something that happens, and on the association level, we'll really advocate for what the agencies need, and really what the customers need. So it is sometimes a political battle too. So when things are happening up on the federal level or state or local level, sometimes those things can kind of jump in the way of what we think we were going to do that day, and we're going to change paths and direction. So we need to be prepared for those.
Mm-hmm. Good times. So, riffing off that question, what are some of the tasks you work on a typical day or a typical week?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if there is a typical day or week. It's just something different. We have several conferences that we run and operate for the network throughout the year. So when those are upcoming, things are a little bit more focused on that than they are on the long-term strategic pieces. But just to kind of give an overview of what my responsibilities are, I design and write much of the branded material that goes out of our office, and that includes, the website design and updating the content, annual reports, social media, all of those things that are very visual. We send out press releases, coordinate press conferences. Also, I'm available to member agencies that may need guidance for communications policies or procedures. So, any one of the 48 agencies can call me at any time and say, I need to write a social media report or plan, and I need to have a crisis communications plan ready to go. So I can help guide them to different resources and tools that are available, provide samples, help make sure that they are considering best practices in communications when they're writing those, and then review them if they ask me to or need me to, and provide suggestions for that.
So you're doing your day job and you're teaching.
Yeah, it's fun. We just started, I just started in my role a branding training. So we're talking about nonprofit branding and how that differs from corporate branding. And training, yeah, it's very exciting. This training we just started this year. We've gone to a couple of different agencies, so I'll travel across the state too, and I'll meet with either boards or full staff. Last month or the month before last, I met with a group of about 25. A couple months before that, I met with a group of 90 and went through this curriculum. And it's still in development. It's still new, but it's really exciting. That's one of my favorite parts.
Ooh, can you share one thing that you would say is different between branding for nonprofits and branding for corporations? What's one thing?
Well, I think that goes back to the stakeholders versus shareholders piece. We're communicating our brand. It's more than a logo. It's about our relationship that we have with our stakeholders.
Ooh, I like that. That was a good way to put it. Very nice. So talking about some of those tasks that you're doing now, you're in a senior level role, but if you can think back maybe to sort of your first foray into public relations, or even as you're maybe hiring or working with your own staff, what are 3 key skills you think public relations students need for their first job?
So I made a little list here. I'm looking on my little cheat sheet here. But, first I would say that the foundation for public relations is ethics. Study and practice ethics and put it into good use. When we combine our skills with others, we have the attorneys who are great at looking at law, and we have the CEOs who are great at looking at, the bottom line, whether that's, how we deliver our programs and how we do all of this. And, I have a really easy job, I think, because I work with some highly ethical people, and we all have that mission centered focus for what it is that we do. But, making sure that you're considering what the public wants to hear, what they need to hear, and what they would say and share with the constituents if they were in your shoes. making sure that you're making the good decisions there. So second, this is the hardest piece, I think, is measurement. It's one thing to put out a press release and, all of these outputs, but it's another thing to measure what the outcomes are from it.
Oh, and look, she even used the vocab that I use. I love it when that happens.
So, I don't think anybody who gets into PR is doing it for the math and statistics. So it's definitely a hard piece to incorporate into your daily routine. Like I said earlier, you have to make sure that you write SMART goals and that they're specific, measurable, attainable, and time bound. So that's just a necessary piece to show what it is that we're doing and how it's effective. And finally, I am a huge history buff. So it's not just public relations history and knowing about, Grunig and Benoit and, P.T. Barnum and all of this stuff, though, I love to read up about those. But I think those who don't study history are definitely doomed to repeat it. We all know that phrase. So when you're starting in a new role, it's important to find out and learn what the organization has done in the past. I think the worst thing that you can do when you come into a new position is tell all the seasoned staff that they're doing it all wrong. Bring in your fresh ideas and your perspectives and the knowledge that you learned from all of your coursework. And yes, everybody definitely wants to hear that. But I think it's important to know why they've done things the way they have, what they've tried and maybe have failed at in the past. And even if you think it's worth another shot, why is it worth another shot? And how is what you're going to do or what you propose doing, how is it going to be different? And why is it worth it? So that I think it gains it helps you gain credibility and, allows you to be a team player.
That's a really good one. They're typing furiously behind me here, so that's a good sign, I think. I don't think they're
good. Yeah.
So my last question, and then I'll turn it over to them so they can ask some questions, are so I feel like we constantly battle this negative image as public relations professionals. So what are some of the ways you think that professionals, educators, students combat those negative stereotypes surrounding our profession?
Like I said earlier, ethics is really a foundational piece. Studying it, knowing how you're going to put it into practice is just important. And some of my colleagues like to tease me and use the word spin just because I think they know it gets a reaction from me, but it's all in good fun. So really just knowing that we're never going to be perfect, but striving for perfection. We can all make an effort to consider what's best for society, what they, like I said, what they want and need to hear, what they would want you to say, or what they would choose to say in your position. It's a difficult thing to do. But having that as a foundation piece, we can really start to kind of combat the, there's a sucker born every minute stereotype that we have.
That's good advice. It's very good advice. Okay, guys, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're going to have to talk since we're kind of separated and I can't move my laptop, but you'll have to speak kind of up a little bit here. I'm going to switch the screen. So who wants to go first? Questions? Really? No questions at all?
Questions.
What's like the most rewarding thing that you would say about doing your job in a nonprofit organization?
Did you hear that?
Can you repeat the question for me?
If you had to say one thing about what you work for, what would be the most rewarding thing that you've experienced?
The bottom line is that what we do in our organization, and I think any organization, whether it's you're working on a social issue or environmental issue or whatever nonprofit piece that your mission based is for, it's helping people. And I go into work every single day knowing that even if it's just, hey, I'm going to help write this social media plan, or I'm going to give some advice on there, that the agencies are taking that and they're really using it to be effective and to help people. That's the best thing about my job. I love nonprofit. I dabbled a little bit in corporate, and I quickly knew that it wasn't the right place for me. I think it's important for anybody to realize when they're considering going into a nonprofit organization that if you don't have that passion and that drive behind what it is that you're doing, that you're probably in the wrong place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? What didn't you like about corporate?
My husband's in corporate. I have a lot of friends that are in corporate, so I don't want to say anything negative about it. And PR professionals who are in corporate have a very hard job to do. So I think really all PR professionals, of course, I'm biased. I think, we're pretty awesome. So I don't think that there's just one thing. It's just the satisfaction and the satisfaction knowing that what I am doing is helping others. So I know every day that when I go in there, I'm making a difference. So it's more about people than it is about, a product, which, products are great and necessary, for a number of reasons that I can't list in just this short live feed. But I think it's just that feeling.
I like how you said it's about people, not products for you. That's an interesting, because I think individuals have to kind of figure out what's their passion, and that's a good way to sort of think about the difference between nonprofits and corporate. Which you prefer? Okay, any more questions? One more question? Anyone? No. Quiet bunch tonight. That's okay. I'm going to get them later. They have to talk later. So. Well, thank you so much for joining us and doing this live stream. I really appreciate it. And if there's any follow-up questions, if you don't mind, I might shoot those over to you. I ask them to usually tweet them, and then I can email them to you. And if you don't mind, just short little follow-ups, or maybe a few.
Sure, absolutely. Or you can send them to me on Twitter too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my handle is Tao of Kathryn. Of Kathryn.
Okay, I will find you and I will follow you then. Thank you again. Have a great night. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, so you guys have, let's take about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to